I'm very glad to be guest at Us People with Savia Rocks today. And my name is Fred Matzer, father of three daughters, and they call me sometimes Humanitarian.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Us People podcast. I'm your host, Savia Rocks, and today I'm humbled to have Fred here with me. Fred is the author of the book Beyond Us. Fred, I want to thank you so much for taking your time to come on the Us People podcast. How are you?
I am fine, and thank you, Savia, for being your guest.
You're more than welcome. I know it's
Yeah,
taken some time for us to connect, but I believe everything happens for a reason, and I'm so happy and so humbled to have you on the show to talk about your book that I have actually here with me. So
yeah.
that's pretty cool. So, Fred, my first question for you is, could you tell us a bit about yourself, but also where you grew up and how that influenced you to be the person who you are today?
Yeah, thank you for asking me. I was born at the edge of war and peace in 1945.
Wow.
My father was the first real estate developer in the country. It was a courageous man. He was a bright man, but also a humble man. He loved to do enterprise. And so I grew up in a family with four kids. At an early stage, my older brother died related to a heart failure when he was 4 years old. So we were a family with four, two girls and then two boys, one of them being me. And in the late 50s, early 60s, my father did develop diabetes and later on also Parkinson's disease. In the meantime, the company grew, and back in 64, I was 19. I did not have the intention to go into the business, but my younger brother, Paul, he was seen as a talent, and I didn't have any ambition into that direction. My younger brother was 3 years junior to me. My father all of a sudden asked me to be his successor. And he said, as you know, I hardly can speak anymore. And I cannot wait for Paul to succeed me. So are you willing to do this? And then I said, yeah, okay. It surprises me, but these days when your dad asks you something and he is ill, well, you don't have a chance to say no.
That's true.
So I said, let's try. To make a long story short, I could not withdraw. I stayed on. And so I found myself becoming board member. And when I was 26, 27, I became CEO of a company with nearly 200 people. And my
Wow.
father got more and more ill. And he died in 77. And alas, for a reason never known to us, in 71, my brother Paul took his own life. So that was a very deep tragedy, as was the health of my dad. So yeah, I kept on doing this job in the company until what is it, 1982, 1983. You may imagine that my father, as a result of his action, he became quite a materially rich person. So we all three, my two sisters and me, we got a substantial inheritance, and in that sense, I was financially free. And I realized in 1982, 83, well, the world is on fire. Why would I continue to be in that business? I've seen it in the eyes of others. I was successful, but, it didn't satisfy me. So it was that as a younger child, I always loved Red Cross. And through a friend, I came in touch with the Secretary General of the Red Cross and Red Crescent organization in Geneva, that at the time was the League of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies, 136 countries being a member. And I mentioned to the boss over there, the Secretary General, here I am. I'm willing to volunteer. You can use me. And then he said, and Savia, this was very, very impressive. He said, did you know that each year 5 million children under 5 die related to the dehydration that goes with diarrhea?
No, I
I said,
didn't even know that
no
myself.
idea. No idea. He said it's the biggest cause of death in the world. And he said, I want to go and do something about it because there is a very simple, effective, and cheap intervention. He said, oral rehydration salts. When you combine water with the electrolytes, the salts, and sugar, and you do that in the right mix, it is 90% effective. That means that the child will survive. You give two, three, four, 5 times that combination, and the child's immune system will be strengthened again, and it cannot die related to dehydration nor of any illness as a cause of the weakening of the immune system could hit the child. So I was really blown away. And I thought, why don't we know? We in the West, the white people, we don't know because it happens over there where there's no money. So who cares? And anyway, Hans, the secretary, he cared, and I cared too. So that was one reason it happens over there. But the other thing is, the beauty in the simplicity of the intervention also means that it hardly costs anything. So it is available in abundance. So the only thing that we need to do is to bring the knowledge to the people, the trust and the confidence that this would work, which means that we need to be patient.
Yes.
Patient to sit together with the people that they get convinced that they could apply this wonderful thing. So there's more to say about this, but anyway, I accepted the job, and he said, we're going to set up a program, Child Alive, it was called. And he said, at Red Cross, it's like United Nations normally. It takes 5 years to go through all kind of committees to get approval.
Whoa.
And yeah. And he said, but I'm going to do a surprise attack in. So this conversation we had was in June, July, and he said in October we have the General Assembly, and then Jim Grant, who was the big man of UNICEF, he will come and he will give really the keynote speech about this terrible disaster. And then immediately I will bring it to a vote that you're going to be becoming the leader of the new program. And I said, I will bring the startup money myself so that we are not dependent on a budget. So I brought money myself. And then we can start. And he already organized that the Dutch Red Cross, the Scandinavian countries, and several others would immediately support the idea. So anyway, so that was a very quick fix, and so we could start. Yeah, so that is a review a little bit of my life as from 1945 to 1983. In the meantime, I got married and I had three lovely daughters. Of course, we moved from the Netherlands and lived in Geneva.
Yeah.
I worked there for 3 years. And when I left, our program was successful in 17, 18 countries. And fast forward, if we would count now, the child mortality is down to far less than 1 million. So has been made a lot of progress. If you want, I can share some lessons learned, shall I? Or
Of
would you
course.
like me to
No,
continue?
no. Please do both.
Yeah, okay. So, a big lesson that I learned was when, say, you and I, or a group of people know, in this case, that oral rehydration salts, oral rehydration therapy is effective, and we come to Africa, to a country in Africa or Latin America, or we go to China, or it doesn't matter, where people do not know that. How are we able to bridge our knowledge with the people living over there?
Yeah.
Because we can just arrogantly say, come on here, use it, come and go. So I've learned there to, first of all, be patient and to really be able to be equal to the other,
Yes.
which means if I want to share information with the others, I also need to be willing to listen to their information.
Yes.
So, who am I to teach if I don't want to be taught? So, you need to have the attitude of willing to learn as well.
I agree with you.
And if you then have a kind of stream of information exchange, you build friendship, you build trust, and then you have the founding blocks for really saying, okay, now, dear Maria, or whatever your name is, or Miriam, have a try, and then because you show something of yourself,
See?
she's willing to do, and I would be willing, and she perhaps gives me a meal of which I've never heard, or the components, or strange taste, or whatever, and I would accept it, well, because I learned from Maria,
See?
and her cooking abilities and talents, So, and that is so important to be patient, because it is also confronted me with an own attitude that yes, when I started for Red Cross, I wanted so much to help people. And at the Red Cross headquarters, there were over 200 people in the building, coming from what is 30, 40 different countries, wanting to help. But what I also observed is that they were full of stress. They needed to help.
Yeah.
And I was one of them. And then I realized, who am I to help if I've not helped myself?
That's true.
And I better help myself before I go into already vulnerable areas. Otherwise, I export my own stress into that country,
Yes.
to the people,
Yes.
and disbalance them more than they may already be disbalanced. So yeah, that was an amazing lesson at that stage.
How do you feel knowing that you've done so much in your life? And literally, I've only asked you just one question, but you've managed to tell me so much information and to give knowledge to the people who are listening. How do you feel knowing that you have helped so many people? What has it done to you throughout your life, knowing that you have done so much?
Well, so much, not much, life for me is not a given. A given, I mean, in a scientific way.
Yes, true.
Life is a gift, and it has come through the coming together lovingly of my parents, but beyond my parents, by a unknown, unseen force in the infinite. So that infinite power that doesn't know time nor space expresses itself lovingly in all kind of creative ways, one of them being creating life and one of the lives being created to me.
Yes.
So in response to that what created me, which I do not know, but which I sometimes have had the privilege to feel, I use the talents that I've been given and that I have been able to develop further to honor that power.
It seems to me that it is a gift. You have a gift of feeling people's energies and knowing how people feel. Previously, we had a conversation before,
Yeah, yeah.
and you said some things to me which a lot of people haven't been able to see or feel within myself. But you managed to have a conversation, excuse me, over the phone with me, and you were able to tell me things that people couldn't tell me for years. So you do have a gift,
Hmm.
and that's so
Like,
important.
like all of us.
True.
Are we able to unwrap the gift
That's
and
the hardest
allow the
part, I
light?
think, Fred.
Yeah, allow the light of the gift and connect
Yeah,
with it.
I do agree with you. I think that's the hardest part, to unwrap a gift that has been given to you and then be able to show that gift to the world, to say
Mm,
that this is your gift. I think that's one of the hardest things. Who do
yeah.
you see when you look in the mirror, Fred? Because that's something I would love to ask you also. But also, what does your reflection say back to you as a being?
Sorry, if I would look in the mirror, what it gave back to me?
What does your reflection say back to you?
I hardly look in the mirror. I
Ah,
I do have only one mirror in the house. And
okay.
yeah, and I, by the way, can look at myself now. Um, right now in the screen. But it reminds me of a healer friend of mine 20 years ago. He said, or 30 years ago even, he said, I would like to invite you to do an exercise. And perhaps that's an exercise that all our listeners, including you, Savia, and myself, could do, which is, he said, stand in front of the mirror
Right.
and look into your eyes and rest into your eyes and then say the following words: I love you, Fred. I love you, Fred. And then that's perhaps the answer to your question. Then you can feel if it's easy. You may experience some unpleasant feelings, some inkling or whatever. But it's a good way, I think, to remember who we are. And yeah, you can take that in an egotistical way. You can take it in a way as I described 2 minutes ago. And there are millions of ways to associate with that. Um, yeah.
See, that's really inspiring in a way, because a lot of people, especially now, Fred, are finding it hard to even say the words that they love themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like that. Can you walk me through a day in your life and how that is? Especially, we're going to get onto the book in a second, but I
Mhm.
would love to know a bit more about yourself. So, could you walk me through a day in Fred's life from when he wakes up to when he gets creative or gets inspired to do something? How does your day work out for you?
Yeah, a typical day is I wake up between 5 and 7 in the morning, and then I go on a meditative walk for about 45 minutes in the winter in the dark, like now in the summer in the light. And then I hear the birds, and sometimes I see deer. Hardly I see people. I go back home and then I read a newspaper, have some porridge with blueberries, take a shower, and then meditate a little bit more. And then my day starts, and which is now in COVID time. I have a talk with my PA. I've been the founder of 23 foundations now, of which five are active, and I talk with board members. I talk with the director of the foundations, of several foundations. I like now I do some podcast or I have interviews, do some writing. Um, Part of having a lot of money in the foundations also means that we pay attention to the investments.
Yes.
And when we invest, for example, it's not so much important that we get a good financial return, but that what we do, that it is social, that people we can help and empower people, we can help people to be more, get more self confidence, teach them professions or whatever. And also, we pay a lot of attention if it's ecological, if the money that we invest is not abusing people nor nature.
Yeah.
And it's a very difficult path to walk. It's very, yeah, because often it's unknown territory. And so we learn, we make mistakes as well. And yeah, as there are many millions in the foundation, yeah, we need to be a good investor. And so the idea of the biggest foundation is like, yeah, we have it's like a tree. We water the tree so that the apples from the tree can be used for all the purposes of the different foundations for buying more forests, or we have big programs to help refugees in Europe. We have programs to empower women. We do a big program in the west of Amsterdam with an area of more than 100,000 people, where we help via the inroad of the first 1,000 days of life to look at lifestyle change. This part of Amsterdam, for example, that's multiculti, as they call it. Many people from different backgrounds, they're together. And it's not the easiest part. Incomes are very low, and often that goes with a lot of body weight, a lack of movement, not the best balance in nutrition. And like I mentioned before with the oral rehydration salts, there is a certain lifestyle that people feel safe with. And so it is with the lifestyle of the many families over there. And so what we're doing there, because we know that around the first 1,000 days of life, people, mothers especially, are most interested to make changes. There's new life, so they are rethinking. Oh, perhaps am I doing the best I can?
Yeah.
And then so we make contacts, like what I mentioned earlier, build bridges of trust. We took, don't be shocked, but 10 years to stay there with the people, so that we have patience to, yeah, make changes together. So we change together. You can't force that. You can't say you should do this, and that you don't like that to be told, nor I look like, but I like to have the space to be convinced and absorb information from other
Yes.
people by learning it and testing it, and then slowly, okay, yes, it's better to stop my McDonald's and a little bit broccoli, and more broccoli per day is better. And yeah, and I feel better. And you're right, So anyway, that is, by the way, I was talking about your question. This is an example of what we do with the foundations. So then I have 2 cups of coffee in the morning, a lunch, 2 slices of bread most of the time, an apple. Then towards the end of the afternoon, I cook, especially quite a load of vegetables, which
Ooh.
I don't really cook through, so half cooked.
Yes.
And then in the early evening, most of the time 5:36, with 2 glasses of wine, I take yeah, mihoon, something with rice, or and then how do you call it? Meat replacers. There are
That's it.
many good
Yes.
tastes that I mix in a certain combination. Yeah, and then I keep on reading books and making, yeah, what I failed to say, but altogether I walk more than 2 hours a day in the morning, first 3 quarters, and then during the day I spread more walks, and the last one I do somewhere between 7 and 8 o'clock, and I go to bed early at 10.
It sounds to me like your day seems quite peaceful to me. It sounds productive but peaceful at the same time.
Yeah, yeah.
It really,
Thanks.
really does. For
And how do
anybody,
you do that, if I may ask?
sorry,
Was that not part of the podcast?
sorry.
Oh, Jim. Uh, uh, oh, you don't anyway. So it's not meant to. But I'm just interested how.
No, go for it.
Huh?
Ask.
No, I'm asking how are you doing your day?
Oh, my day. Oh, I love it when someone asks me a question. Okay, this is nice. So I wake up about 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
I meditate for about half an hour.
Wow.
Sometimes I do some yoga. Um, it's not very long, maybe about 15 minutes, just to stretch my body,
Yeah.
just to stretch my energies into the universe of what I want to achieve in that day.
Hmm.
Um, at the moment, I'm sure everyone knows, I work 50 hours a week. I work in a beautiful building in the central of London.
Hmm.
I basically kind of run the building, which is really nice actually. So I spend 10 hours a day there from Monday to Friday. When I come home after doing that and helping people there, when I come home, I then do a podcast for about an hour, hour and a half, depending. And then after that, I have dinner with my partner because the day's practically gone. It goes quite quickly. You never believe how life can fly by and a day
Yeah.
can fly by. After that, I have dinner with my partner. We talk for a while about our days just to connect. Uh, by then, I meditate. It's already almost 10 o'clock. I feed my cats, who I rescued. And then it's time for me to rest. So my day is consistently like that. Unless it's a weekend like now, I give myself some more time where might wake up a little bit later, like 6 o'clock or 6:30. I do the same. I meditate. I do a podcast or two with a guest. I then go out. I do things that needs to be done for myself. In the evening, I do spontaneous things like at midnight, or even before midnight, I would go around to different areas and take pictures because obviously photography, for exhibitions that I love to do. And then I come home and just find things that I love to do. So everything is a cycle. Try to eat very healthy vegetables. I love them. Stretching, doing exercise. Um, yeah, so I try to keep it very healthy for myself. My partner's a vegetarian. I'm
Mhm.
almost there. The only thing I eat is chicken and fish. I gave up eating any type of red meat because my body was starting to reject it.
Mhm.
And that's basically my day and my week until I leave work and do what I love full time, and then become somewhat financially comfortable within what I want to do. It will come, but it just takes time and hard work.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Wow.
know,
A little bit similar.
similar, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
similar.
Yeah. Nice.
So
Nice.
it's not. It's nice that someone actually asked me a question on the podcast, which is is pretty nice. So thank you, Fred, for asking.
Okay.
That's cool.
Well,
So one thing I would love to understand, which a lot of people don't actually understand, I have a friend who is a humanitarian also, but I would love to ask you, for people who don't understand what a humanitarian is and does, could you break down, Fred, what a humanitarian is and does for people who are listening?
yeah. Work in progress.
Yeah, that's a good
It's
answer.
just a label. Um, we could use any word, but yeah. Um, I think the most important thing is that we are aware of our awareness.
Yes.
We are conscious of our awareness. And that in the world, in the universe, life runs through us. Life runs through us. Like I've already said at an earlier stage, we are here to serve. We are here to serve. We are here to use our um, ratio to be uh, used as the servant of our heart.
Yes.
And when I say humanitarian, it's it's a word that tries to express something away from the ego. We as humans, we are grown up with the idea that we need to have stuff, that we need to compete. We often forget when a child is born, it doesn't have words.
True.
We exchange information. It's very human, very humanitarian to just share smiles and feel. And then in a later stage, we try to help these babies to get language with words and numbers.
Yes.
And then slowly, the stress goes from sharing feelings to sharing ideas, information, with words and numbers. And feelings are part of the intuitive female part of the female domain. The ratio, the words and the numbers are part of the mental, the male part. And so it is that slowly we shift when we get older to be not really humanitarians, but rational human beings. We exchange information, we compare, and we exclude. And we want to be better than other people, and we want to excel, comparing not within ourselves if we excel, like doing it better than yesterday. No, we are trained to be better than Mary or Ted.
Yes,
And yeah, to be humanitarian, I would say, is to use more this mental faculty, not in itself as a standalone, but as a wonderful instrument to make choices that are closer to the heart. And there's a saying that I often use: we're not here to compete, but we are here as humanitarians to cooperate and compare with care in order to share with care.
I like that.
Yeah. So yeah, that may be a description of a humanitarian. Maybe.
It's a good description for me. It's definitely a good one. So let's talk about your book because I have it here in front of me. I've had the
Can I
pleasure
get
of
a
reading it.
copy too, or
Yeah, if you want to, you can get a copy too. I'll let you get a copy.
where is it? Hmm. Well, I can't find I can't find it right now, but I knew it a little bit by heart. Some
Okay.
parts. Yeah, yeah. Okay, you're right.
Okay. So, first of all, my first question for anybody who writes a book is what was the idea behind your book? I've had a chance to read your book actually quite a few times. I never read it once, I read it a few times,
Oh,
um,
wow.
which was nice actually because it's always nice to refer back to a book. Um, and if there's something that you want to know or you don't understand and you go back into it, you can read it again. But Fred, what made you decide I want to write the book Beyond Us?
Well, it more or less the idea grew organically. I just was about to finish the documentary Beyond Me.
Yes.
By the way, you can find that documentary on when you Google Beyond Me documentary, one word, .org. You can watch it. What is it for 52 minutes? There's also a trailer of about 3 minutes. That a friend of mine, Bernardo Kastrup, he said, "Well, you when you talk, you have so many profound ideas that are quite original, that are not thoughts that are part of the beaten path. So apparently, he said you have the ability to, yeah, have a kind of helicopter view and can can look at stuff from a detached and attached way, and you can shift and you can sort of go in and out, zoom in, zoom out, so to say.
Yes.
So why don't you write your ideas down? And then he said, I can help you because he's quite a very brilliant man. If you look, Google Dr. Kastrup,
Yeah.
Kastrup, you may have done it. With him, I have founded the foundation Essentia. And anyway, he said, I'll bring my computer and I'll type down. So then we go fast. So that's the way we did it.
See, it makes sense to me.
Yeah. So what I do, the way I did it is I sit down and I think about an idea.
Mhm.
And he sits in front of me. That works for me very well. So I focus on his eyes and then I talk. And so we had 3, 4 sessions, and then the book was done.
Wow. Just
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, yeah. Of course, there are some editing involved. Of course, you need to, because I speak from the heart, straight in, and then yeah, of course, there are mistakes, and you go back a little bit, and so we had to streamline that definitely.
I was reading in here about gold because you have quite a few things that resonate with myself and also I'm sure with other people. So you talk about self-expression, which is one of the biggest things that we as humans need to do for communication. Could you break down more about the chapter about self-expression?
I would not know right now by heart, but self-expression is what comes up right now is the ability to allow yourself to be in the most authentic way that what you're meant to be, which means to have confidence in
Yes.
what comes through you, the reflection on who you are, what is the self to express, what is self. Is self is something different from that what is the non-self. What is the non-self?
Yes.
What wants to be expressed, to express is to go out, to go, that you have the ability to communicate in words or beyond words or in all kind of form through your senses and connect lovingly with your environment, being
Yes.
it animals, being it people, being it flowers or any form of life or non-life, and develop the abilities to do that from gratitude, simplicity, and humanness. That
I
is
love
what comes up right now. You've read it. You can give me perhaps a link, and then I may be able to link back to the text. But it always
Of
shifts.
course. Of course. I have it because I have it here
Yeah.
in front of me. I'm
Well,
just going.
okay, I get it too. One second. Is that all?
Okay.
Can we do that in a podcast, or was
Of
that
course you
against the
can.
rule?
You can do that in a podcast.
Okay, I'm back in the loop.
Welcome back.
Self-expression. Let me see. Where were we? Yep. Yes. What is what? You're 55.
Yes, there you go.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, got it. Yeah, yeah. That is wow. Okay. Shall I just do that part of Mary?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's
That,
why I
that
liked
is,
it.
yeah, yeah, Mary. Oh gosh, the moment I heard that, because it's not my story, it's a story that in which I recognize myself. I think it was Barry Neil Kaufman who, on an audio tape back in the late '80s, I heard him say, "Okay," and that relates to the fact that he had his son Ron, about whom his documentary has been made, Sunrise. And,
Yes.
and that was a life of an autistic child. Anyway, that's besides the point now. So he said one day, okay, imagine it's a wonderful summery day in the United States, and there is in a nice mansion or a house. There's a girl, let's call her Mary. She's 4 years old. It's 6 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and lots of light is penetrating the room, and she is awake, and she goes out of the bed, and she sees all kind of lovely crayons lying on the floor. And her mom recently had done the room with fresh wallpaper, and the sun was shining on the wall, and she started to grab the crayons and make the most beautiful designs on that wall. So Mary was one with her creation. She loved that. She was going on and on and on, and had no idea about time, about whatever. And then all of a sudden she heard footsteps on the hallway,
Yeah.
cracks of the wooden floor, flushing of the toilet, and within 10 seconds the door was swinging open and mom was there. 3 times her size, had given her the safety of breastfeeding, and she started to shout, saying, Mary, what are you doing here? This is too bad. You are destroying the new wallpaper that I gave you back in your bed. And never, never, never do this again. Mary went back to her bed. Mary, as her life went on, became a very good student, had high marks in school because she was bright. She was always listening and doing exactly what the teacher said to her. But as from that moment, the moment that her mom had been so angry, her feelings have been frozen. They went on hold. So she was never able to express herself through the feeling. One second, I have to get a glass of water.
Yeah, sure. I have mine here with me too.
Yeah, a glass of water. Sorry, and to not express herself again. She became a top academician, but she was very poor in expressing her feelings. And I realized later that I was part of that. What mom could have done there at the same time, indeed, have the observation, like wallpaper, completely well, changed a different kind of expression on the wall. Now, she could have said, "Oh, Mary, well, how lovely that you had so much fun, that you were so creative. It's amazing, but it's a little bit not the best idea, you know. Let's go tomorrow and we'll buy you a sketchbook.
Yes.
And then you can do this on your sketchbook. So that is the big lesson. It reminds me of my good friend Jane Goodall. You may have heard about her or not, Jane Goodall.
Yes. Yes, I have.
And that story is, I also think somewhere in the book, she's now 85, 86, and I met her mom even. And when Jane was a young child, she lived at the Birches in Bournemouth, and she was very interested to know where the eggs from the chicken come from. And she didn't tell her mom, but one early morning, she went out into the garden where there was a hen, how do you call it, a chicken house, and she went to hide in the chicken house to really watch. Again, early in the morning, where those eggs come from, and she finally found out. So here, her mom, Van, she was indeed quite concerned. Where's Jane? She tried to find, but then she found her there. And instead of punishing her, she said, "What a lovely idea that you explore yourself how this works." So she encouraged her to go on with that. And you know what has gone from Jane Goodall. It
Yes.
runs the longest wildlife research program in the world
Yes.
because her mom encouraged her and said, "Well, please next time give a knock on the door that you go out so that I know, you know." Yeah.
Oh,
So,
I like I like the stories actually. I like when anyone tells me a story.
yeah.
One of the things that when I was reading, and it's on page 62,
62. There we go.
62. Okay. You talk about language is such a magical tool. Okay. Um, Talk to me a bit more about why you think language is such a magical tool.
First of all, language, the use of words and numbers,
Hmm.
as far as we know, in the universe, we are the only expression that communicates in in language. And there is so much communication, billions of forms of communication going on
Yeah.
in the world between uh, or inside other species, being it starlings, ants, elephants, trees, even they communicate.
Yeah, they do.
Fungi, for example, fungi in themselves communicate. The cells in our body communicate with one another. They die and they are conceived. Chicken, we just discussed that. So yeah, so we as humans, we have the unique, I would say, extra tool to communicate in words. So we can transfer knowledge, exchange knowledge with words that no other species can.
Yeah.
Now, the question is, Savia, is that to the betterment of life? If we don't make the life definition too small as human life.
Yeah.
So, yes, words have brought us to the moon.
That's true.
One sec, I'm losing an earplug. To the moon. Life or words have brought us cars, internet, so much. But when we go into the overall picture, we also are destroying our planet. We destroy so much life.
Yeah, that's true.
So, because the use of words, alas, and the products of the use of words, which is a product of our thinking, they create so much damage. And again, I bring in the point of the heart. If we would filter our thoughts and the product of our thinking through our hearts, we would make different decisions.
Yes.
We would not exclude others, we would not exclude nature, but we would include, we would compare and share. So, yeah, words in themselves are neutral. The use of words, the use of language is neutral. But it's important to realize that we see the use of language in the context of what needs to be done.
Yeah.
So, do we want to harm or do we want to speak loving words, words of encouragement? So, in itself, words are fantastic, but it's our consciousness, how we connect with the words and use them, which is of the utmost importance. Do I come from love? Do I come from fear? Where there's love, there is no fear. Where there's fear, there is no love. Love is letting go of fear. And yes, I'm fearful many times a day, but the very moment that I bring my attention, light, and love to what I fear, my fear melts.
See?
Yeah. Is this enough kind of
No, it's good
word
enough.
around?
I love it. It makes sense to me and it resonates with me, Fred, so it's good for me.
good.
One question that I do want to ask is, if somebody in the world would love to become a humanitarian, but also, what advice would you give to us as beings to help the planet more rather than destroy it? What would you say?
Well, what comes up now? Think about the baby.
Yeah.
What, how would you look at the baby in yourself, the baby your mom or your grandmom once was,
Yes.
and think about the babies that are still coming. Think of that enormous power of vulnerability, which is no weakness. So the baby is, in a way, we could say helpless or weak. No, it's vulnerable, and that's a strength.
Yes.
And if we think of that, who would not like that baby to have joy,
That's true.
lifelong joy? And are we as adults feeling self worth enough to embrace ourselves as being the baby?
Yes.
Are we willing to forgive ourselves for the things that we may think can't see the light? And are we willing to do that also with others and in others?
That's a good way to end that question. I like that because it makes you think.
Mhm.
Fred, what do you believe is the best advice that you have ever received from someone? And how has it helped you in your life?
The lines that I just spoke, um, way back in 1983, I got an audio tape from Dr. Jerry Jampolsky, an
Yes.
ex-child psychiatrist, and Diane Cirincione. And that was a tape that was the theme addressed there was love is letting go of fear.
Yes.
Where there is love, there is no fear. Where there is fear, there is no love. When I started to think about it, and I now think about it many times a day, it's a wonderful tool
Mm-hmm.
to see where you are at that moment
Yeah.
and to realize that love and fear are never there together. It's one or the other.
That's true.
And anyway, that gave me a lead into going to much deeper on what that simple lines meant. By the way, Jerry became a lifelong, very close friend, died last December 94, 95.
Yeah.
So one, he really lived what he walked his talk. I really was amazing. Yeah,
I like that.
yeah, yeah.
I love that. My question, I only have two more for you, Fred, but my second to last question is, what would you like your legacy to be? You've done so much in life, and I know you say it's just things you do in life, which teaches you how to be who you are. But what would you like your legacy to be, and how would you like people to remember you?
Don't need to be remembered,
I like that.
and I only. It would even be nice if I'm not remembered. But I would love to remember people that, um, yeah, when you think about somebody that brings a smile on your face,
Yes,
or that you have memories of the associated feelings.
that makes sense to me. That definitely makes sense to me.
Hmm.
When was the last time you felt totally at peace with yourself?
Now,
I like that too. I like that. That resonates with me. Fred, I've had the honor of being able to interview you today, and I'm humbled and I have so much gratitude for you coming on the show and talking about everything that you've done and been through. But if anybody else would like to get in contact with you, where can they find you?
We have a website, Fred Foundation. I think it's fredfoundation.org, but if you Google Fred Foundation, then you will find an Essentia Foundation
Yes.
is also .org. Yeah, but it's pretty easy to find me. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, it is pretty easy to find Fred, guys. Yeah, but it's also really nice because Fred has a really calm aura to him. So if you ever would like to talk to him, just send him a message or contact him. Fred, I want to thank you so much for taking your time to come on the Yes People podcast. The conversation has flown really quickly and nicely. And I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you.
Thank you very much, dear Savia. And sorry for the several times that we were not too successful. But we
No,
finally
that's
managed
totally
it.
fine.
Yeah.
I think that makes the podcast authentic in its own way.
And miles of smiles, and stay in touch with the Dutch. Yeah?
Of course I will, guys. Thank you so much for listening to the As People podcast. And please remember, you can subscribe to Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and any other platform that you prefer listening to. Please also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And you can also donate to the As People podcast on the Savvy Rocks website, or just type in paypal.me/Us People podcast. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Stay happy, stay positive, and as always, please continue to be kind to one another.
Mucho love. Bye bye. See you later.